Hello, friends. I welcome you back on an extensive study of the novel The Heart of the Matter, written by Greene. To understand actually the suitability of the title to this novel, the two operative words here are heart and matter. And with the incidents that take place in this novel of a man, Henry Scobie, falling down to damnation despite his every desire to do good unto mankind, more particularly to his wife, to whom he owes a religious duty, to uh, Helen, who he has uh, confronted with after a catastrophe which Helen has faced, and his desire to do good unto her as well, and his strong love for Ali, his servant. And despite that love, the causing of the killing of this innocent Ali, all at certain drives maneuvered onto him by the satanic Wilson. We will have to understand what actually here is heart and what is matter. This novel, set in a small British colonial outpost in Sierra Leone during World War II, it occupies and comments on the ambitious subjects of war, spionage, love, adultery, treachery, and betrayal. It is the novel of the moral dilemmas in the heart of Scobie, Henry Scobie, who is a police officer by profession, and the only mishap in his life that he is ignored in being conferred the commissionership that he claimed rightfully. It is here that the matter turns out of control. The novel's this protagonist even wonders if Christ's death might be understood as an act of suicide, since he allowed himself to be sacrificed. So, Scobie appears as a man crucified for his desire to be good. Before he reaches the climactic decision of his own moral crisis, Scobie struggles to make his poetry loving and deeply unhappy wife Louise, who has lost her daughter quite some years back, happy. Fed up with the ghastly climate, the remoteness, and in her case, friendlessness of village life in Sierra Leone, Louise sets her husband know the full depth of her misery. So much does she impinge upon his already tormented heart that he is obliged to seek help first from the bank, if a loan can be extended onto him, and then to the notorious diamond seller, diamond trader, Yusuf. Thus begins a series of decisions and bargains that push Scobie into a terrifyingly unfamiliar moral terrain. Though Scobie wonders if any human being can arrange another's happiness and even considers the desire to be happy in a world so filled with pain and suffering that he turns out to appear as impossibly foolish. The man who is a police officer gets inclined to seek help from Yusuf. That is the matter, and that is the turning point in his life. Ultimately, he is able to send Louise to her place of happiness, which actually does not turn out to be that. And she decides to come back at a point of time when Scobie has taken a sort of liking for the girl who he has saved from the shipwreck, Helen. And here comes the confrontation. What now should be the code of conduct that he can perform? And goaded by the disturbing idea, the disturbing sense that he was being spied, does he lead himself to reveal this fear of his, the fear that tormented his heart before Yusuf, the already existing man, to let him fall down from his high seat? And somehow, at the back of all this is Wilson, who had developed an affinity with Scobie's wife, Louise, only because they shared a passion over poetry. This Wilson, standing in the background of the fall of Scobie, and Yusuf, ready at hand to provide him with the opportunity for fall. This somehow we can compare with the fall of Dr. Faustus, the man who had the very good ideas, the three beautiful ideas to perform. One, to have all his school going children be clad in beautiful dresses, in school uniforms, which he himself couldn't do. Second, to have River Rhine come to his kingdom and give the required vegetation and bliss to his land. And third, to drive away the prince of Parma from his country. But then Cornelius and Valdez were at hand to cause his downfall. So this, his ambition in the background is Wilson in the background. And Yusuf is Mephistopheles, providing to him the opportunity for fall. So, nasty as the fall is, we see that we are left to several questions to ponder. And that primarily is the crucial question of the novel. How far does one sacrifice oneself for the happiness of others? Faustus had a fall because he wanted happiness for others. And Scobie has a fall because he wants happiness, first for his suffering wife, and second for Helen, and then for the whole world. So, if we are to really assess this novel, the heart of the matter, we will have to go into the heart of the matter and ponder upon some of the questions that the novel raises before us. And let us take Scobie at the heart of this novel, who thinks that no human being can really understand another and no one can arrange another's happiness. Is this the case? We all are here on earth to first think of happiness for this body which God has given to us. Happiness later on for those who are around us. But Scobie does the reverse of it. In a way, his wife Louise, for her strong desire to stay in a state of happiness and in a state of fulfillment, because as a wife, she doesn't see her husband come to the commissioner's post, and further, the loss of the child to which Scobie had no contribution. Still, she wants happiness. Is she the driving force for the fall of Scobie? The role of Yusuf is here, as I told you, is the Mephistopheles who drags down Scobie from his responsible state, his position as being a police officer, the keeper of law, as a betrayer of law. He himself falls into that corrupt relationship with Yusuf, that is the world, thereby betraying his essential relationship with the Catholic Church. Where he wants to go, because as soon as he knows that he has erred, he goes and makes a confession to Father Rank, who tells him, who comforts him with the idea that he is going to pray, but somehow all the prayers are being denied to him. The soul who is groping in the dark for happiness, he is denied this happiness. Early in the novel, Scobie promises to find a way to send Louise to South Africa, and we read that he would still have made the promise even if he could have foreseen all that would come of it. Will an officer not know, a police officer not know what should be the consequences of going against law? He knew them all, and yet he incurs the wrath of God on himself to keep his earthly duties worked out. We have to keep in mind that the conflict, the actions that emanate out of conflict which Scobie is suffering, are all for the reason that he wants to keep the world happy. He compromises his duty to God towards in favor of his duty to the people on earth. So, does it lead us to believe that we should quit the world where God has planted us for action? We have been sent here, all of us, for a mission to serve. We all have filial duties and we all have spiritual duties. How do we strike a balance between the two? He knew that, but he should have definitely known that the action he is committing is going to bring him damnation, and yet he does it. And all the while, Wilson working as a foil for Scobie. These two men are different. Wilson is on the government duty to make an analysis into the actions of Scobie, who, even while he is on duty, is lost somewhere. His physical appearance is only a shade under which the real Scobie is struggling hard. Wilson has been there in the novel for the special purpose to highlight Scobie as a really good man. Wilson will not hesitate first in tempting Louise to a relationship with him, and will not hesitate even to bring Scobie, who he knows very well has just erred. He could have been given a scope which is actually disallowed to him. And the death of his only child is really tormenting Scobie and Louise. Louise seems to be suffering from it, but in fact it is Scobie who carries the pain forever in his heart. And we should not forget that it is only his love for his deceased daughter, Catherine, that his love for Helen begins. Helen is young, she's just 19 years old. And he feels very comfortable in the presence of Helen, which he doesn't feel in the presence of his wife. So, we are here on earth not to reason out our affiliations, because man's reason, if he is goaded with the idea of love and idea of duty to others, might not stay in a balance. And the subplots of spying and diamond smuggling are central to Scobie's relations with the world. Scobie is actually wanting to bring happiness in the world, and he is goaded to his ultimate damnation by the two forces in the then society, the forces of spying and the forces of illegal trade. The spying agent is Wilson, who is driving him mad, and the illegal trade, the earthly trade, is humanized, is personified in the character of Yusuf, who also gives him the idea of putting an end to Ali's life, who the blinded man Scobie thinks is the wrongdoer. But what is most important in this novel is the final ejaculation of Father Rank, who says to Scobie, "It may seem an odd thing to say when a man is as wrong as he was, but I think from what I saw of him that he really loved God." In this relevance, I would like to cite an example from our everyday life. Our parents impugn upon us certain duties with a heart that to us appear a hard one. They impose duties on us, and we should live by those duties, and yet at times we choose our own path. What then is actually the free will which God has given to us? We are all assigned the free will. People might mistake us for having done an error, and even we, at the last, might come to be this baffled realization that we have erred. But, and to Father Rank's suggestion, comment upon Henry Scobie that he really loved God, Louise, his wife, who had been his constant companion and in fact bearer of happiness from him, she says, he certainly loved no one else. This confirms our idea to believe Scobie as being a good man. A representative from church proclaims him good and a lover of God, and his wife also has nothing else to say but that he certainly loved no one else, with the painful realization that whatever he had done for her was in fact his real love for the church, for God. So, but then let us also try to analyze how do we justify his two acts. The first act, to commit adultery with Helen, and finally to commit suicide. What is not yours, you take it away. He wanted to love his wife and yet went into adultery with Helen. Is this man who loves God good enough while he commits adultery? And is this man who really loved God, why should he want to take away the best gift of God? That is this body. Why to perforce put an end to it with suicide? These are the points on which we have to justify the title, The Heart of the Matter. At the heart of the matter is centered, is placed Scobie, who is from the four sides. First, his wife, then Helen, then Yusuf, and of them most, Wilson, cornered. So, at the heart of the matter of this novel is a cornered person, Scobie, who whose all actions are diverted towards establishing good for others, whose all actions are a complete realization of having committed adultery, and this makes him pressed down to the extent that he lays aside the medicine administered on him in a quantity that can cause his death and secretly consumes this. But when Scobie dies, we are given an answer to the question. We cannot use the free will to this ultimate limit. Though there will be a justification of the wrong, the considered wrong, because it was done to keep others happy. But the wrongness of these two actions, adultery and suicide, still remain to be analyzed. And that is the task which Graham Greene has laid before us. I think this is all for today. A big volume for understanding a really good man committing really bad actions. Thank you.